welcome to Dependency. Right here on I-95.5 FM, live on the Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Remember, we don't broadcast on I-95 Facebook page, we broadcast on Dependency's Facebook page, but you can still find us on I-95.5 FM, as we have been for the past 15 years. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Garth. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good to see you and hear you on our Sunday morning. This is not a regular time slot for us, as you know, but it's nice to be in the sunshine and the bright light ever so often. And this morning we are shining a light on a very serious issue.
Yes, we are, and we thank Guy Barrington for sitting in with us this morning at this special time of our independency. And, the exigencies of the service, we have to adjust to suit the political climate. So this evening, you're going to have a live broadcast of that People's National Movement in Tobago and to kick off the campaign in Tobago for the THA the House of Assembly's election. So, but this morning, as Natasha said, we are shining a light on a very dark area. And we ask that you get your son and daughter, if they could have them sit for a few minutes. We're going to be playing that documentary for you, an interview we did with a young lady who was rescued by law enforcement here in Trinidad and Tobago, led by the counter-trafficking unit of Trinidad and Tobago. And the strange part about it is how she got to Trinidad and Tobago. You know, the old people have a saying, friends carry you, but they don't bring you back. Well, this is a perfect example of that. And we want you to pay attention to it, and especially to you men out there who love to purchase commercial sex, who run down commercial sex and go after these children who are forced, who are trafficked. This one's for you too. We know you're out there, we know you're listening, and we want you to see Maria. You know, she was a child when this happened. And although we have her wearing a hoodie, but you will hear excuse me, what she has to say. And social media played a very important role too in her getting here. So it's a really, really tight situation and troubling situation where the demand for commercial sex in Trinidad and Tobago continues to rise. And this morning, Natasha and I will also, after this first break, share some information from the Trafficking in Persons report.
Yes, the U.S. State Department produces an annual report on trafficking in persons, basically reporting what government around are doing to deal this global issue, this major. I think human trafficking is second only to arms trafficking and drug trafficking in terms of major international crimes. And we're going to share some information from the 2020 report with you about how human trafficking is defined, how human trafficking intersects with addiction, which, as you know, is our forte, and explaining the tier system that is contained within the report. Where does Trinidad and Tobago fall on that tier system, and how do we rise up the ranks, basically, to tier 1, which is the top level. And we're also going to share some of the content of what was said about Trinidad and Tobago in that 2020 report, so that you have a good idea of what is being done by our government to tackle human trafficking. And that is largely on the shoulders of the counter-trafficking unit, who, as you know, is our airtime sponsor. They are a unit within the Ministry of National Security, and they are responsible for all of the state's efforts to combat human trafficking and to prosecute those offenders, to rescue victims and survivors. They have a very, very tall mandate, and we are happy to support them in this effort.
And of course, folks, this is very important that you share this conversation with somebody, especially somebody with a child. Children are back out now, so the predators are out as well. And you have to be very, very careful. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. So this story of Maria this morning, after we share some of the tips report with you, for you to understand, I know in Trinidad and Tobago, this is something some of you citizens are taking for granted. And because it hasn't reached home yet, you're not preparing yourself. Well, you need to do this. And this is why we take our time and do this research and all of this for you, so that you can have a clear understanding of what to look out for. Because there's always the act, the means, and the purpose. There's the grooming. Somebody right now could be grooming your child, your son, your daughter, and you don't know. You see them come home with a new phone or a new device. They have money that they're not supposed to have. And you need to ask some questions, because somebody can be grooming them. And how would you know if your child is being groomed? It's very important that you have this information. We live in a different time, Trinidad and Tobago. When we started our Dependency, it was just radio. That was it. There was nothing else. No social media, no nothing. It was just raw radio. Now, there's social media. A number of platforms. Which one your child is on? Do you know if they're getting groomed? We had recently a report of 2 children caught lap dancing in school. We are up against it, and it will serve us well to take our heads out of the sand. So let's go to this quick break, and as always, during our breaks, we have information to share there as well. So let's go to a break. Remember, you can join us on Facebook, our Dependency Facebook page live, or our Dependency YouTube channel. After this break, we'll be back with lots more for you. Stay right there.
This Sunday on episode 45 of Eye on Dependency, where every life is a biography.
One day, your loving daughter just disappears. Missing. Vanished without a trace. A few days later, you receive a phone call.
When I first contacted my mom, I told her that I'd been taken to this bar without my consent, and my mom just began to cry.
This Sunday, in observance of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, the Counter-Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security, presents the story of Maria, a Venezuelan national smuggled into Trinidad for the purpose of sex trafficking. You don't want to miss Eye on Dependency this Sunday at a special start time, 10 a.m. on I-95.5 FM and live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
Hi, babe.
Hey, how are you? Good morning.
You busy?
Not for you, how could I assist?
Okay, we have a job for you.
Job? What kind of job is it?
Morning, the boss. You have a small work for you, a little 5,000. What you do, pick up some girls, drop them and remember the boss for you. Making a quick 5,000.
Girls, boss. What is this about?
Listen to me now. It's a little small work. You reach in Toko, pick up some girls, drop them and Rima. 5,000.
That sounding like human trafficking. Are you trying to set me up or what? Partner, you know the penalty for human trafficking? Look, I gone now. Excuse me, please.
Do you know that human trafficking is considered a serious crime in Trinidad and Tobago and is punishable by law under the Trafficking in Persons Act Chapter 1210 or the TIPS Act? The penalties for recruiting, receiving, transporting, or housing a victim of human trafficking are a minimum of 15 years for trafficking adults and a fine of $500,000, a minimum of 20 years for trafficking children and a fine of $1 million, a fine of $350,000 and imprisonment for 12 years for transporting a person within or across TT borders for the purpose of exploiting that person for prostitution, a fine of $400,000 and imprisonment for 15 years for persons who receive a financial or other benefits from tips, a fine of $500,000 and imprisonment for 20 years for any person who receives a financial or other benefits from trafficking children, an additional 15 years imprisonment for any trafficker who uses or threatens to use a dangerous weapon on a victim, or where the victim suffers serious bodily harm or victim contracts a life-threatening illness or is sexually assaulted, or if the trafficker abuses his power as someone entrusted with the care or supervision of a child victim. Imprisonment for 25 years for any member of the Defense or Protective Services or any official or public officer having the powers of arrest who commits an offense. Court can order forfeiture of convicted traffickers' property. A company can be fined $5 million for engaging in tips.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Hello.
Hi, this is Patricia Kent from HMP London. Can I speak to Miss Sheila, please?
This is Miss Sheila.
Hi, I've got an important call for you. Please hold the line. Mommy, it's Sherry.
Oh God, Sherry, we looking for you all the time. 3 weeks now. Where you going?
Mommy, I'm calling to tell you I get locked up. I had drugs in my luggage and I'm in England right now. In jail.
Oh God, Sherry, what will you do? How you reach there? Oh God, how we gonna do?
Oh God, Mommy, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It'll be all right. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Eye on Dependency. Reality radio at its best every Sunday from 6:15 to 8 p.m. on I-95.5 FM. Don't miss it.
Hi, my name is Nicole Mohammed. You're listening to Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best on I-95.5 FM.
The Trafficking Victims Protection Act, TVPA, defines severe forms of trafficking in persons as sex trafficking, in which a commercial sex act is induced by force, fraud, or coercion, and in which the person is induced to perform such an act has not attained 18 years of age, or the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of subjection to involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, or slavery. A victim need not be physically transported from one location to another for the crime to fall within this definition.
The complex relationship between addiction and both labor and sex trafficking is recognized by the United States criminal justice system. Successfully prosecuted cases have proven that the role of substance use disorder in human trafficking is powerful and pervasive. Addiction can increase a person's vulnerability to being trafficked, can be initiated and manipulated by the trafficker as a means of coercion and control, and can be used by the victim, survivor, as a means of coping with the physical, psychological traumas of being trafficked, both during captivity and after exiting the trafficking situation.
People with substance use issues are especially vulnerable to trauma and victimization by human traffickers. Some traffickers recruit directly from detox and addiction treatment facilities. Similar to traumatic stress effects on the brain, substance use disorder involves biochemical changes to the brain and adds an additional layer of risk, especially for survivors with post-traumatic stress disorder. Although addiction is scientifically understood as a medical condition and not a moral weakness, the societal stigma surrounding both the condition and the sufferer is pervasive, and the negative stereotype persists of the chemically dependent person as a morally deficient and lacking in willpower. Societal stigma can prevent healthcare providers, law enforcement officials, prosecutors, and other professionals from identifying victims of human trafficking when they see only the manifestations of substance abuse disorder and consequently dismiss red flags. In addition, societal stigma and self-stigma may deter an individual from seeking help.
Whenever trafficking survivors with substance use issues are identified, referral to safe, ethical treatment programs and facilities is essential. Safe housing is essential for survivors. A lack of safe housing options increases vulnerability to further trauma. Trauma-informed prosecutions and special task forces are key. Now, in the United States, specialized multidisciplinary task forces have been key to successful investigation and prosecution of human trafficking cases involving addiction. The prosecutorial successes were achieved because the prosecutors, law enforcement, and judges listened to survivors, respected their needs, and valued their lived experience in describing the torment of drug-based coercion.
Sex trafficking is this young girl you see on your screen. When patient's parents passed away, she took on the burden of caring for her 6 younger siblings and needed to find a job. A recruiter convinced her to leave Nigeria for better opportunities in Ghana. Once she arrived in a major city in Ghana, the recruiter demanded $1,500 for the cost of transportation and turned her over to a madam who used a local fetish priest to perform a ritual that obligated her to repay the debt. The trafficker then forced patients to engage in commercial sex to repay her so-called debt for her travel to Ghana. She was threatened and told that if she refused, the priest would place a curse on her and she would be killed.
Tier placement. The department ranks each country in this report on one of 4 tiers, as mandated by the TVPA. Such rankings are based on not the size of a country's problems, but on the extent of government effort to meet the TVPA's minimum standards for the elimination of human trafficking, which are generally consistent with the Palermo Protocol. While Tier 1 is the highest ranking, it does not mean that a country has no human trafficking problem or that it is doing enough to address the problem. Rather, a Tier 1 ranking indicates that a government has made efforts to address the problem that meet the TVPA's minimum standards. To maintain a Tier 1 ranking, governments need to demonstrate appreciable progress each year in combating trafficking. Indeed, Tier 1 represents a responsibility rather than a reprieve.
Tier rankings and narratives in the 2020 TIP report reflect an assessment of the following: enactment of laws prohibiting severe forms of trafficking in persons as defined by the TVPA and provision of criminal punishments for trafficking offenses, criminal penalties prescribed for human trafficking offenses with a maximum of at least 4 years deprivation of liberty or more severe penalty, implementation of human trafficking laws through vigorous prosecution of the prevalent forms of trafficking in the country and sentencing of offenders, proactive victim identification measures with systematic procedures to guide law enforcement and other government-supported frontline responders in the process of victim identification, government funding and partnerships with NGOs to provide victims with access to primary health care, counseling, shelter, allowing them to recount their trafficking experiences to trained social counselors and law enforcement in an environment of minimal pressure. Victim protection efforts that include access to services and shelter without detention and with legal alternatives to removal to countries in which victims would face retribution or hardship. The extent to which a government ensures victims are provided with legal and other assistance, and that, consistent with domestic law, proceedings are not prejudicial to victims' rights, dignity, or psychological well-being. The extent to which a government ensures the safe, humane, and to the extent possible, voluntary repatriation and reintegration of victims. Governmental measures to prevent human trafficking, including efforts to curb practices identified as contributing factors to human trafficking, such as employers' confiscation of foreign workers' passports and allowing labor recruiters to charge fees to prospective migrants, and governmental efforts to reduce the demand for commercial sex acts and international sex tourism.
And that was just the beginning. We'll prepare now to go to Maria. And this was an interview conducted with a young lady who, as we mentioned earlier, was rescued by law enforcement here, led by the Counter Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. And you will hear her story and that journey. The journey is really interesting, how she got here. And we'd like you to identify certain things in this documentary, in this interview with Maria. Of course, we have a translator translating what she says, so you can understand perfectly what she went through. When we return after Maria, you will not hear from us until the end of the documentary, and then you will hear about the guide to the tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3. And where we sit in the scheme of things, we meaning Trinidad and Tobago. So folks, without further ado, remember you have someone who you think should see this, please share it with them. They can find us live on the Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Let's go now to that story as we recognize and observe the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Here is Maria's story. Hello, welcome to this Dependency special interview. You will hear from a young lady who came here. You will hear of her journey, how she got here, and what happened to her when she landed here. She took a chance, and we are about to have an interview with her. Her name is Maria. Here's what happened to Maria.
My name is Maria. I'm 18 years old. I am from the central part of Venezuela. And today I come to tell you about my experience in Trinidad and Tobago.
Maria, tell us, what was it like growing up in Venezuela?
I grew up in Venezuela and I had a beautiful experience. My parents were always with me. In the 17 years that I've been in Venezuela with them, my family is very humble. They are workers, and I had a beautiful childhood, always surrounded by my family, by love, and my 3 sisters.
Now, Maria, you went to school in Venezuela. Tell us about that. Tell us about your education And what was your journey like with that in Venezuela?
Yes, I went to school. I finished high school, was about to go to university in March of this year, 2020.
Tell us about your family, Maria. Did you come from a poor family, rich family, middle class family? Tell us about that.
Sí, mis padres ambos trabajan.
Yes, both parents work. Both parents are engineers. And my mom at the moment is studying again, primary education.
So you came from a well-off family. You all were happy growing up in Venezuela. You didn't have a care in the world, right?
Sí, se puede decir que sí.
Yes, you can say that. My family has always supported me in anything I wanted to do while I was there. And any obstacle that we would find, we would always try to get over it.
So, Maria, is it safe to say then that where you grew up, the struggles of the everyday Venezuelan national, or even the downturn in the economy, the sanctions, that didn't affect your family at all?
Sí, obviamente.
Yes, obviously, all cities were going through these situations. But even though, above all, we were not in dire necessity, so we didn't have to go through that.
So what made you decide to come to Trinidad then? You risked your life, literally. Why did you decide to come to Trinidad and Tobago?
Because I wanted to get to know new horizons, experiences. I wanted to know more, something more than just my own country.
Now, did you discuss coming to Trinidad with your family? Did you tell anyone at all?
No, I did not mention it to anyone.
Why didn't you?
I knew that if I shared this with a close friend, most probably they would tell my parents. And I knew that my parents will not permit me to leave home in that way.
Did you have a boyfriend at the time in Venezuela?
Yes. Yes, I had.
Did you discuss it with him at all?
I did not tell him about deciding to come here. But on several occasions, I did mention that I wanted to leave the country. But I did not tell him that I was coming here.
So, who encouraged you to come to Trinidad? And where did you meet this person?
Una chica que yo consideraba mi amiga.
Through a friend, I met this girl at a disco. This friend was supposed to be my best friend. And at a disco, we went out that night. We shared information. We spoke about what each one of us were doing at the time. And a few days after, this friend contacted me via Facebook.
So this friend started off as being a stranger, but then she sent you a friend request on Facebook, and that you all started communicating from there.
Sí, y yo se la acepté.
Yes, and I accepted her Facebook request because we had met that night, we had shared information, and I thought she would become another friend like the other friends I have on Facebook.
So who asked the question about coming to Trinidad? Did you ask her, or did she invite you to come to Trinidad?
No, ella me había escrito.
No,
Yo le pregunté
we
que dónde estaba.
were chatting on Facebook, but then for about a month, I didn't hear about her. I didn't hear of her. So I wrote her and asked her about what she was doing. And after conversing, then she told me that she was in Trinidad and Tobago and that things here were going well for her, and that I could come to Trinidad and Tobago and she would help me.
So this friend, was she Venezuelan or Trinidadian?
Venezuelan.
So when you got into contact with her again, what was the conversation like, and who made the decision now for you to come to Trinidad?
Cuando yo la contacté,
When I contacted her
estábamos hablando de que
again,
ella estaba acá.
we spoke and she told me that things were going well with her here, that she was living alone here, and days after she offered me if I wanted to come, and that she would help me and support me, and I then decided that I would come.
Did she ask about your family, or did you tell her that your family would not find favor with you coming to Trinidad?
I did not immediately tell her yes that I would go. I told her that I would think about it. I'll give her an answer later, because I was afraid, I was nervous, and I told her that I did not think that my family would accept it. And she told me not to tell my family about it, because then they would not let me go.
So didn't you become suspicious with that answer?
Yes, I had a little doubt, but I never imagined what would come in the future.
So when did you finally decide to let her know that you're ready to come to Trinidad?
About 2 weeks later.
What kind of arrangement was made to come to Trinidad?
She told me to pack a small suitcase, not to bring too many clothes, that she would have a taxi pick me up, and this taxi would take me to Tucupita, where I will spend 1 night. But I ended up spending 5 nights before the boat came.
So tell us now, how did you prepare to leave home by packing and not making your family suspicious?
The night before, which was Friday, I went out with my friends. And I then prepared a bag with my clothes. And I went to the party, and the next morning, the car passed and picked me up.
So you had planned not to go back home once you went to that party. It was to head for Trinidad.
Yes.
So did it concern you that your family would be worried that something probably bad has happened to you in Venezuela?
When I left, 2 days after that, my family began looking for me. They were concerned. I only was able to see their messages via Facebook 4 days after. I felt bad. I really felt bad. I felt that I had betrayed their trust, and they were worried. They were trying to contact all my friends, and no one can give an answer as to my whereabouts.
Now, what about your boyfriend? Was he worried as well?
Yes, he had left me thousands of messages. I told him I was at a friend's house.
So nobody in Venezuela knew that you were on your way to Trinidad?
No one knew that I had come to Trinidad until the moment when I was at a supermarket with persons who I did not know, and I did not want to be there. I tried to leave, but they warned me that if I did, something bad would happen to me. One of the girls secretly lent me a phone, and this is when I called my friend and explained everything.
Now there was this party. Before we go on, what was the arrangement after the party? Tell us about that. After the party, the day after, the taxi came to pick me up at 10 a.m. The driver asked if I had an ID card because the Guardia Nacional would ask for ID on the way. The trip was 2.5 hours. The guards did stop us. They did search the car, and they did search the baggage. Then we arrived at Tucupita at night. I remained at a house where I had to wait, and then the next day I was taken by somebody else who came to pick me up, and I was taken to a supermarket. So I guess the supermarket is all part of the setup. Is that right?
The supermarket has a room, a waiting room, where from there they take us to the boat. once I was in that supermarket, in that room, I suspected something. And I began feeling afraid. There was one girl with me, and I began asking questions. And she then asked me questions and asked me if my friend told me the truth about what I was going to do. I told her my friend told me that I can come and work at a restaurant. And this girl answered that if my friend had not said the truth, then I had come for something else.
Morning. Morning. Listen now. Has noticed something about them new people on the Bobby Road there. Where's that? Girl, the man that he passing up and down in front of here with a set of woman.
I really noticed some woman living there, you know. And they can't even say as much as good morning.
Well, listen now. I wonder if it's human trafficking. You think it's that?
So, how can you spot and identify perpetrators and victims of trafficking? Many victims are found living and working together in the same place and sleep in shared and inappropriate spaces. Victims work excessively long hours. They often sleep in the daytime and work long nights. They are often escorted everywhere they go and may appear to be malnourished. They may show signs of physical abuse, drug and alcohol use, and may also appear withdrawn, fearful, or intimidated. Victims who are migrants are often not in possession of their identity or immigration documents and have irregular immigration status. Perpetrators can be male or female and may appear to be managing or controlling the victims. And they may even at times appear to be the victim's best friend, boyfriend, or employer.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Hello. Hi, this is Patricia Kent from HMP London. Can I speak to Miss Sheila, please? This is Miss Sheila. Hi, I've got an important call for you. Please hold the line. Mommy, it's Sherry. Oh, God, Sherry, we looking for you all the time. 3 weeks now. Where you going? Mommy, I'm calling to tell you I get locked up. I had drugs in my luggage and I'm in England right now. In jail.
Oh, God, sorry, what? What you do? How you reach there? Oh, God, how we gonna do?
Oh, God, Mommy, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It'll be all right. Sorry, sorry.
Eye on Dependency. Reality radio at its best every Sunday from 6:15 to 8 p.m. on I-95.5 FM. Don't miss it.
Alicia, and you are listening to Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha on I-95.5 FM, Trinidad and Tobago. Don't traffic drugs. It's not worth it.
All right, so that was part one of Maria's story. Let's go now. Remember, you can join us live on the Independency Facebook page and YouTube channel to see this very interesting documentary. And you're listening on the radio, we welcome you as well. Let's go back to Maria. So the plan was to stay one night, but you ended up staying 5 nights at the supermarket. Why did that happen?
Because they told me that the Coast Guard was on alert and we could not do the trip.
So which Coast Guard? Venezuelan Coast Guard or Trinidad and Tobago's Coast Guard?
Trinidad Coast Guard.
So for the nights that you stayed in the room, were you allowed to come out, or you all had just to stay there in that room till you were ready to leave?
No, we were not allowed to go out. We had a restroom there, they gave us food, but we were not allowed to go out.
Any means of communication, radio, television, telephone?
No, there was no means of communication.
Now, is this supermarket located near to a port of entry to Venezuela?
Yes.
How did you feel about this? You just had closed for one night, but you had to stay 5 nights. You couldn't come out, you couldn't communicate with anyone. You all were just locked in this room. How did you feel about that?
Me sentí muy mal.
I felt very, very bad. I felt as though I was drowning. I felt remorse. I was so sorry. I wanted to leave. I thought of my family, that they would be concerned. But most of all, I felt fear. Because when I commented that I wanted to leave, if there was any possibility that I could leave, they informed me that once I tried to get out of that room, harm would come to me.
So, there and then, you realized that this was not the picture that your friend painted for you, correct?
Yes. I realized then that it was not what she had said, because they told me that if I tried leaving, harm would come to me. In fact, they told me they would kill me because the person who would have paid for me and paid the taxi was actually not her, as she had previously said.
So during your stay there, did anyone try to harm you, physically molest you, or anything of the sort?
No, thank God no one tried to touch me or harm me.
Now, when the boat arrived and it was time for you to leave, who actually came for you?
Another taxi came to pick me up at the house, and they took us to a bus where other persons also would board to get on, to go.
Now, these other persons, were they part of the cargo that come to Trinidad as well?
Yes.
Now, do you remember how many people you would have met there?
I did not speak with no one. I always spoke to the girl who was with me, who came in the taxi with me when I left the city where I lived. And we were always together.
Oh, did you see anyone you recognize on that bus?
No.
Now, do you remember what time did the bus depart and how long was the journey to get to the vessel?
We left at 5 a.m. in the bus, and it took about 35 minutes to arrive at where the boat was.
So when you all got to the boat now, what were the instructions then?
No instructions were given. They took the baggage, they told us to sit where we could find space.
On the boat?
Yes.
Now, do you remember how many of you boarded that boat?
I cannot clearly remember. It may have been 15 or more persons.
Were you scared?
Yes, I was very afraid.
Now, did you at any point, before you boarded that boat, decided, look, you asked to go back home? Did you want to go back home?
I could not do it. The persons who had paid for my fare, they were present.
So when you saw that boat, did you realize that the dream that your friend sold you was not what you were about to experience?
When
I saw the boat, I was in total shock. Now, it seems as though I was living a nightmare. Because now, it was not my decision whether I go or I stay. I just knew now that I had to leave to Trinidad. It was either yes or yes. My friend told me, the person was supposed to be my friend, told me that the trip would be for 45 minutes. It did not happen that way. This trip was more than 5 hours. And we came up onto a problem in the boat, and we were there in the middle of the sea and could only then continue after 1 hour. And this is when I knew that it wasn't going to be as I thought.
Cappy, talk to you now, boy. Got a small work for you to do. You make a quick 10 G's. What you gonna do for me?
10 G's? Where's that how much do there, buddy?
What you doing? Taking your boat, going up the islands, pick up some people and then bring them back here for me. That's all you have to do.
That sounds like human trafficking, boy. That's a serious crime. I can't make that.
Trafficking in human beings is a serious violation of a person's human rights. It violates a person's right to freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and freedom of identity. It is a heinous crime which affects local, regional, and international peace and security. A victim of human trafficking is subjected to many types of abuse. The crime destroys a person's dignity and self-worth. Victims often feel hopeless, are suicidal, and are stigmatized in their communities. Child victims are deprived of their rights to education, play, and social interactions. They're essentially robbed of their childhood, and that can never be regained once those years have passed. If we do little or nothing to fight against human trafficking in our country, we can face economic sanctions from international agencies and partners. Our country will be losing money. Doing little or nothing to fight against human trafficking will tarnish our country's international image and, most of all, the value we place on human life. Human trafficking is no respecter of persons. Anyone can be a victim. So let us all strive to safeguard human life and dignity in Trinidad and Tobago.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Hello. Hi, this is Patricia Kent from HMP London. Can I speak to Miss Sheila, please? This is Miss Sheila. Hi, I've got an important call for you. Please hold the line.
Mommy, it's Sherry.
Oh, God, Sherry, we looking for you all the time. 3 weeks now. Where you going?
Mommy, according to Talia, I get locked up. I had drugs in my luggage and I'm in England right now. In jail.
Oh, God, Sherry, what? What you do? How you reach there? Oh, God, how we gonna do?
Oh, God, Mommy, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It'll be all right. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Eye on Dependency. Reality radio at its best every Sunday from 6:15 to 8 p.m. on I-95.5 FM. Don't miss it.
Eye on Dependency. Eye on Dependency, where every life is a biography. On the Eye, 95.5, the most influential name in radio.
And we continue with the story of Maria. So the men who paid for you to come to Trinidad, they were there supervising everyone getting on the boat.
Yes.
Were they carrying any weapons? Were they threatening to anyone?
No, I did not notice. At that moment, all I was doing was asking God to protect my family and to help me.
So the journey started. It should have been just 45 minutes, but it turned to 5 hours. How did that happen?
At the moment the boat was supposed to take off, there was no fuel, so we had to wait for fuel. Then we crossed a river and went to another river. There we stopped to eat and to stretch our legs. It became late, it got late. Then the boat had to stop in the middle of the sea and we spent an hour there because the captain of the boat was drinking, and we had to wait on another man to come, who was the one who eventually brought us to Trinidad.
So you think it's because of the captain's drinking, he went in a wrong direction, that made the journey longer?
It could have been.
So Maria, you're out in the ocean, that boat rocking. Weren't you scared? Wasn't everybody scared to be out in the middle of that ocean there with that boat just rocking from side to side waiting?
Yes, we were all afraid. The sea was rough. The boat moved a lot. We even had to make another stop in the middle of a very small island because we thought the Coast Guard were approaching, but eventually it was just another boat also coming to Trinidad.
So the other boat coming to Trinidad had Venezuelans on it as well?
Yes, there were several adults, but the rest were children.
Were the other passengers on the boat, as you said, were they coming for the same reason as you?
What I picked up was that some of them had family here, some of them were coming to work, most of them were men.
So when the boat got to Trinidad and Tobago waters now, what were the instructions?
Before the boat arrived at the shore, we were told that even before the boat arrived to the shore, we had to get out of the boat very quickly. We had to throw our baggage out very quickly and quickly pick it up. We had to run, but always bending down, bending our heads, and go towards some trees. They told us that we should not let anyone see us. They told us that we were not allowed to walk alone, that we should wait until several persons who were Trinidadians would come to show us where to walk or to show us the way.
Now, what time did the boat arrive, and do you remember where you all were dropped off?
We arrived approximately 3 a.m. in the morning. I do not know where I arrived. I only know that it was a beach, and then they took us to like a forest where we had to go up a mountain and then go down.
Now, tell us about coming off of the boat or disembarking. Was it difficult? Did you all have to swim to shore, or was it close enough so that you can touch the shore and run into the bushes?
No, I just got out very quickly out of the boat. I threw my bag out, picked it up, and as quickly as possible, I ran.
Now, how old were you when you touched down on Trinidad and Tobago soil?
I was 17 years old.
So you're here. Now it's time to see what life has in store for you. You went through the forest. What happened on the other side of that?
Well, when we arrived there and we went through the forest, from there we were taken to a place that was completely alone except for several Trinidadian men. Then a van came to pick us up. They took us to a house where I saw the owner of the boat. They said that he was the owner of the house. Everybody began waiting on who was to come and pick them up. The boy that was there asked me where I was going. I told him I did not know, that I had to call my friend. He lent me the phone. I wrote her, but she never answered. By that time, it was 5 in the morning. She arrived like around 10. She sent me another telephone number and I called her. A taxi came to pick me up and the taxi took me directly to a bar. This is when I entered in desperation and began feeling very nervous. I did not know what I was doing there. I thought that they were taking me to her house and that I would be able to stay there.
Thank you for calling the counter-trafficking unit of Trinidad and Tobago. How may I help you?
The Trinidad and Tobago's counter-trafficking unit, also called the CTU, was established through an Act of Parliament, the Trafficking in Persons Act, Chapter 1210, or the TIPS Act. We are a specialized, multidimensional, civilian-led agency under the Ministry of National Security, responsible for the daily operations of the counter-trafficking response of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We implement government policies developed by the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, effective identification of victims and witnesses, prevention of trafficking, protection and prosecution, all through effective partnerships. We also operate a toll-free anonymous hotline, 800-4288-4CTU, where the public can report possible cases of human trafficking. We screen and interview persons to identify possible victims of trafficking. We refer identified victims to appropriate agencies for support and care. Specially trained, positively vetted police officers working in the CTU gather evidence, investigate, and prosecute human trafficking cases. In keeping with our public education mandate, we also deliver training to our many stakeholders and partners. We collaborate with local, regional, and international organizations, NGOs, churches, and faith-based organizations to educate and warn the public on how to recognize human trafficking. We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Hello.
Hi, this is Patricia Kent from HMP London. Can I speak to Miss Sheila, please?
This is Miss Sheila.
Hi, I've got an important call for you. Please hold the line.
Mommy, it's Sherry.
Oh God, Sherry, we looking for you all the time. 3 weeks now. Where you going?
Mommy, according to Talia, I get locked up. I had drugs in my luggage and I'm in England right now. In jail.
Oh God, Sherry, what? What you do? How you reach there? Oh God, how we gonna do?
Oh God, Mommy, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It'll be alright. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Eye on Dependency. Reality radio at its best every Sunday from 6:15 to 8 p.m. on I-95.5 FM. Don't miss it.
I'm Mava, and you listen to Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha on I-95.5 FM, Trinidad and Tobago. Don't be a fool and be a mule. I'm Mava, and you listen to Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha on I-95.5 FM.
So let's hear how this story ended for Maria. We go back to Maria. So Maria, know that you are safe in the arms of the right people. What would you like to say to your friends back in Venezuela?
Quisiera decirles que no se puede confiar en nadie, que no todo es como te lo pintan.
What I want to tell
Muchísimas veces
everyone is that
te dicen
you should
algo,
not
pero
trust any and everybody.
ese lugar,
You cannot trust everyone that tells you that you can come to this place and you will be able to work and everything would be okay. No, there is a network of traffickers that will try to make you leave from 17 and even younger than 17. They would want you to make this trip. But believe me, even though the situation in Venezuela is difficult, even though you may not have all the resources, and even though your parents may not be able to give you all that you wish, there is a reality, and I say this generally. The most important thing is always health, your family, the people that love you, your meals. It doesn't matter how little it is. It doesn't matter how humble it is. But you should not leave Venezuela looking for other horizons and looking for other ways, the way that I did.
Pero, por favor, favor, se los pido de todo corazón, por todo lo que yo sé, que no es nada fácil.
Please,
No es
please,
fácil
please,
que tú
I
confíes
beg
en
you
una
from my
persona
heart.
y te diga
This
que
is
sí,
not
vente,
easy. You
este
cannot
solito,
confide in people that you do not know. They will tell you one thing, but it really is another. And you can then fall the way that I did. I must give thanks to God that I was able to get help. And if ever something like this should happen to you, that you were brought here fooled, thinking it was something else, there are agencies, there are people who can help you. And they have helped me as though they were my family, even though they didn't have to. And they will help you too. We are trying to save you. And one more thing that I would like to mention to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I would like to clear this up, that not every woman that leaves Venezuela to come to Trinidad comes to prostitute herself. Some come to look for a work that dignifies because they have children and they have family. They are looking for a better future that Venezuela at this time cannot give them. I asked all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, please, from the bottom of my heart, whenever you see a Venezuelan woman, do not look at her in a bad manner. Not all of us think the same way. Not all of us have the same motive. We just want to progress.
So there you have it, folks. That was Maria's story. As sad as it is, at least she is one that who was rescued. There are thousands of stories like Maria's. As much as they come to hand, in conjunction with the Counter Trafficking Unit, we will bring them to you. The objective here is for our friends in Venezuela to learn from this experience. Thank you very much for joining us. See you again next time.
The Ministry of National Security's Counter-Trafficking Unit, led by Director Alana Wheeler, continues its work to investigate human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago. 4 persons appeared virtually before the Port of Spain Magistrates Court on Friday, April 16, 2021, on 8 criminal charges collectively for human trafficking and offences under the Children's Act. Following an exercise early on the morning of Tuesday, April 13, 2021, with officers of the TTPS Special Investigations Unit, Special Task Force, Guard and Emergency Branch, Emergency Task Force, and Crime Scene Investigations Unit, the CTU led a team of officers into Diego Martin Blue Basin area. 4 persons were subsequently charged for sex trafficking of a Venezuelan minor. Mr. Karen Pascal, Mr. Shaquille Noel, Mr. Jose Rafael Sozano Perez, and Mr. Kuda James. Both Mr. Pascal and Mr. Noel were charged with receiving, transporting, and harboring a child for the purpose of child trafficking. Mr. Pascal was additionally charged with knowingly receiving a financial benefit from the offense of trafficking in persons, causing a child to prostitute, controlling a child prostitute, and facilitating child prostitution. Mr. Perez was charged with receiving and transporting a child for the purpose of child trafficking, while Mr. James was charged with sexual penetration of a child. Venezuelan Geraldine Abro, 19, and Clement Aliyoung, 30, have been charged with trafficking in persons and false imprisonment. Aliyoung was also charged with kidnapping. The charges were laid after a report was made that 2 Venezuelan women were kidnapped on April 23, 2021. Officers of the Special Investigations Unit, the SIU, with the assistance of the Multi-Option Police Section, the Counter-Trafficking Unit, the CTU, and the TTPS Crime Scene Unit proceeded to the southern main road in Canupia, where 2 Venezuelan women were found and rescued. 2 Venezuelans have been charged following an intensive investigation by the Special Investigations Unit Special Task Force, with the assistance of the Counter-Trafficking Unit and Interpol. Pedro David Hernandez Petete, 29, was charged with transporting a person within Trinidad for the purpose of exploiting that person for prostitution and for procuration of prostitution. Nohemi Del Rosario Velasquez, 22, was charged with procuration for prostitution. On June 2, 2021, based on intelligence and following painstaking inquiries and surveillance, officers with the assistance of the Northeastern Division Task Force intercepted 2 vehicles at Bamboo Settlement No. 2, Valsain, transporting 9 Latin American nationals, inclusive of a minor. 2 Trinidad and Tobago nationals were also arrested. Inquiries and interviews were conducted, which led to the execution of a search warrant at Central Park, Balmain, Couva, where 3 persons were charged and detained. Also assisting in the execution of the search warrant were members of MOPS and the Crime Scene Unit. The Counter-Trafficking Unit continues to work closely with law enforcement partners to investigate trafficking in persons in Trinidad and Tobago. If you know or suspect human trafficking activity, call the toll-free 24-hour hotline 800-4288, 800-4CTU. I am Nicole Romani for Eye on Dependency News.
All right, folks, so there you have it. That was the story of Maria and her journey. If you're listening to us on I-95.5 FM, you can give us a call at 622-3937. Before we share the tier rankings for you and what it means, tell us if you understood what you heard and what did you learn from it. There's always something to learn in these experiences. You know, there's a saying, as the saying goes, friends just carry you, but they don't bring you back.
Indeed.
So she met this young lady in a party, and the young lady said, well, come to Trinidad. And yet, you know what gets me every time I hear this? The New Horizons part. Oh, she wanted to experience New Horizons with her little self. 17 years, but you want to experience New Horizons. You're good. The phone lines open 622-3937. You living in your good house, good, everything going good for you, not a care in the world, and you just decide, without your parents and your boyfriend knowing, to come to Trinidad and Tobago to work in a bar. It's really unfortunate that children put their parents in all these kind of positions, that your daughter just disappeared. You don't know where she gone, and then you get a call, she in Trinidad. What you doing in Trinidad? Who sent you? How you got there? And some friend she met on social media, and that, I was going to say, was the end of Solomon Grundy. It's really unfortunate. Children can really put you in some position sometimes. But that's the story of Maria. And, there are some people would say, well, look, they're Venezuelans, so what? We really don't care about what happens to them, but they're human. And that's where we start. That's where we start with Independency. We're broadcasting at a strange time this morning, Independency. From 10, we wrap up at 12. And what happened?
Yeah, I think I realize what we, the gap that some of our listeners have mentioned. I think we did, in fact, omit one part of the story, which was
The purpose?
The purpose, yes.
Short man, we have to show that again then.
Apologies.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Hello?
Morning.
Just one. Garth, I apologize to you.
That's all right.
Good morning, Garth and Natasha.
Morning.
Good morning, short man.
Short man.
Yes. Garth and Natasha here, and I listened the story of Maria, especially the part when her friend told her about coming, and then she came from a loving, well put together family.
Mm-hmm.
Her parents they are ambitious people. They are educated, and they have good jobs. And I am trying to understand why she wanted to leave. But sometime in teenage years, you could get carried away.
Yes.
You could really get carried away by hearing about this other country, and people will paint this beautiful picture. Although our country is beautiful, but I think it is a lesson for young people to learn. Please do not be misled and appreciate the family that you come from.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you. Yes.
Bye-bye. 622-3937, good morning.
Good morning, Garth. Good morning, Natasha.
Morning.
Before I carry on, Garth and Natasha, Garth, I don't want you to get jealous. When I look at Natasha, she looks so gorgeous, and especially when she's looking up at you. I love that photo ever so much. You see, when you're laughing now, you know it's true. She is such a, I'm not saying you are not handsome, but she is such a beautiful lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I admire your profile photo. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
But listen, I put an extra smile on your face because of that kind of story we just heard.
Mm-hmm.
And God, you know what I am thinking about while I was listening? I was sipping my coffee in the porch. And what I think about, you bring so much, I shouldn't say stories, so much events to your program. So much people learn from it. And I would like to see the government of the day. I mean, they say we're in a pandemic, we're in a lockdown. We can't have this programs where we will go to communities. Like to say, if you're coming in a REMA, let people only from a REMA come. Don't let people from all over come. Let people from a REMA come so they will listen and they will make an impact on the program. And you go to different areas. This program that you are doing, God, so much people are going astray, no matter what you say, but when you see you have it live in front of the eyes and you bring an event for them and certain things, everybody would not pick it up, but a lot of people will learn more. Because of we in a lockdown now, we have to stay home and we have to make things better. I think something could be done. So when it is we open up more, Garth and Natasha, I would like to the government of the day do something with the kind of knowledge and wisdom both of you have for the communities. Thank you ever so much and have a blessed and wonderful day.
You're welcome, my dear.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you very
too.
much for your kind sentiments. Hello, good morning. 622-3937, good morning.
Good morning to Garth.
Hey,
good morning
how you
to
doing?
Natasha.
How you doing?
I good. I listen to all your two of my favorite people, Don't think because you ain't here, may I give you up,
Good.
all the time. Natasha, how you going, girl?
I'm all right, holding on.
As the lady say, well, she seen you on the
On
the
Facebook or something. I think
what
it's
you
the
call
Facebook
it,
picture.
computer or television or whatever. She said, oh, you're looking up at God. that is what you call love.
Yes, love in the house.
Now. I just want to say, beautiful program as usual, and that just goes to show people, you must stick with your family. Don't try to keep secrets from your family, especially things like that. And always remember, friends are the one who does carry you.
That's
They don't
right.
bring you back at all.
That's right.
That's right.
You understand?
Yes.
So you all keep up the good work and nice listening to you all as usual.
Thank you,
And
dear.
hear the joke now. Say, Garth and Natasha don't want any actors in that story, He and Natasha just play the different parts very well. Natasha.
Wow.
Very, very good.
Thank
All
you.
right, so you all keep up the good work and
Thank you,
have a
Zina.
blessed day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Great to hear from you.
6223937. Good morning. Long time we haven't chatted with you all on Radio
Morning,
Access.
morning.
Morning.
I'm calling to, you just mentioned the girl came from a good home and she was well brought up and all that. What about the men who go to homes like these to look for young girls, to look for virgins, who are coming from good homes, who have good jobs, who have families, who have girl children, boy children? When are we going to try to rehabilitate these kind of men with this sex addiction and this promiscuous way of life? And they go any time of the day. They will go before they go to work. They will go to a house like this. They will go after work. They will go during lunchtime. Anytime the houses are there for them to facilitate, and they'll go anytime.
Yes.
And they don't care who they meet there. It could be their daughter for all you know.
Yes.
We need to rehabilitate the sex addiction we have now, the mentality of the men we have now, and to do more and stop throwing the emphasis on the women and girls who are in these positions.
Thank you, ma'am. Well said. We are reaching the men. We are trying to reach the men.
We try
well
to.
said.
I mean, that is that very difficult task, because I mean, I don't know how do you reach people who for whom it is very easy to, instead of developing relationships with people, to be intimate with them, that they can instead pay for sex.
Good morning.
It's very easy for them
Hello.
to do that. Morning.
Caller, hold 1 second. And before we go, I think there's a part that we missed that we'll ask Short Man to replay.
Yeah, we'll
for
try.
you all.
We're getting it ready for you now. So before we leave, we will play that segment for you.
Yes, right? So hold on. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Garth and Natasha.
Morning, ma'am.
Garth and Natasha, will the program be aired this evening, 6:15?
No, but you could go on our page and get it this evening.
Oh, okay then. Thank you.
Okay.
Continue doing the good work.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
6223937. Good morning.
Hi, morning. So how are you going?
Hey, Manu, how you doing?
Well, I'm taking it like that, just listening to what's going on there. And Sunday morning prayer, I was just letting people know how nice it's in Bonnet Gardens, nice sunlight, there's school and everything.
Nice to hear.
All right.
People around in Bonnet Gardens and Mount Hope, good morning. Let me say good morning to my girlfriend. Let me say good morning to Mr. John Williams. Good morning to Joan Duncan, a good listener. Good morning to everybody who listens to this number one station. John Benoit, good morning to you. John Gill, good morning. Good morning to everybody. I just called in to say that I'm listening to this station. Let them know this is the number one around in the station in the world.
All right, Manu. Thank you very much. Remember, folks, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence begins on 25th November, but we observe it the entire year. We need to do that. We need to keep that on the front burner. Remember that. And we will, of course, we going to continue doing the virtual stuff as well. So if we could get, we need to try to reach our young men. We have to pull the domino out somewhere. And remember, there are people, and we will have a chat with Mr. Hira at some point, but he did make some comments. Let us now share, or should we play that part first?
Well, it's up while it uploads. I guess we could share.
Oh,
it
so
with
Sherman
you.
can't just go back to it where he has it there and play it.
Yeah, no, I had to edit it from the original documentary.
Oh, really? You did that there? Okay.
Yeah, I completely missed it out because it was incorrectly labeled, but that's another story.
Oh, so are we blaming?
No, it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Shortman, you put up image C for us, please, and let's go to
this info about the tiers.
Yes. So the guide, hold on, callers, we'll get back to you in a minute. So the guide to the tiers. So we're looking at tier 1, tier 2 watch list, and tier 3. Countries whose governments, so tier 1 is countries whose governments fully meet the TVPA's minimum standards for eliminating of trafficking. Tier 2, countries whose governments do not fully meet the TVPA's minimum standards but are making significant efforts to bring themselves into compliance with those standards. Tier 2 watch list. Now we are on Tier 2. We are Tier 2, but there's a Tier 2 watch list. What this means, countries whose governments do not fully meet the TVPA's minimum standards but are making significant efforts to bring themselves into compliance with those standards, and for which A, the estimated number of victims of severe forms of trafficking is very significant or is significantly increasing and the country is not taking proportional concrete actions. B, there is a failure to provide evidence of increasing efforts to combat severe forms of trafficking in persons from the previous year, including increased investigations, prosecution, and convictions of trafficking crimes, increased assistance to victims, and decreasing evidence of complicity to severe forms of trafficking by government officials.
So Trinidad and Tobago is one of 89 countries on Tier 2, 89 countries in the world, and we are part of that. Tier 1 comprises of 34 countries. And when Shortman puts up the image D, you will see on the map there that Tier 2 countries are represented in yellow and Tier 1 countries in green. And
so Shortman put up image D for us,
Image D will show you in this hemisphere where we are and where the other countries in the hemisphere are. So Tier 2 countries are in yellow and Tier 1 countries are in green. And Trinidad and Tobago is on Tier 2. We're up from being on the watch list. We were on the watch list at one point.
Yes.
And then we were elevated to Tier 2. And we are hoping, with our efforts and, of course, the efforts of the counter-trafficking unit, that we can rise to Tier 1.
Well, let me explain that. The counter-trafficking unit and other agencies done their part already. They arrested and charged people for human trafficking, police officers including. The problem is getting to Tier 1, convictions.
Mm-hmm.
Convictions.
Yep.
Convictions. And you know where that can happen, and the only place that can happen, convictions. Okay? The government of Trinidad and Tobago does not fully meet the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking. However, it is making significant efforts to do so. The government demonstrated overall increasing efforts compared to the previous reporting period. Therefore, Trinidad and Tobago remained at Tier 2. These efforts included screening and identifying more victims, investigating traffickers, including 3 potentially complicit officials, prosecuting 8 suspected traffickers, and increasing anti-trafficking training for its officials. However, the government did not meet the minimum standards in several key areas. The government had yet to secure a conviction under its 2011 anti-trafficking law. Funding for victim assistance was reduced, and laws did not provide immigration relief for victims or allowed educational opportunities for vulnerable refugee children.
And if Shortman, you could put up image E. What Garth just read was the summary, basically, of the Trinidad and Tobago report in the TIP report. So this is basically the first paragraph in what is reported for Trinidad and Tobago as far as its efforts to combat human trafficking.
No, we do expect you to read that from
No.
here, but you can actually access it
Online.
The report online. The TIPS report online, Trafficking in Persons report from 2017 to 2020.
Right. And the trafficking profile for Trinidad and Tobago goes like this. As reported over the past 5 years, and there's some very important information in this profile. As reported over the past 5 years, human traffickers exploit domestic and foreign victims in Trinidad and Tobago, and traffickers exploit victims from Trinidad and Tobago abroad. The ongoing humanitarian crisis in neighboring Venezuela has contributed to an influx of refugees and migrants who are at high risk for trafficking. Traffickers lure women and girls from Colombia, the Dominican Republic, and Venezuela with offers of employment, many via social media, and subject them to sex trafficking in brothels and clubs. Traffickers are increasingly targeting and accompanying vulnerable foreign young women and girls between the ages of 15 and 21. Other vulnerable economic migrants arrive from countries in Africa, from China and other Caribbean countries. LGBTI persons are at risk for sex trafficking. Many victims enter the country legally via Trinidad's international airport, while others enter illegally via small boats from Venezuela, which is only 7 miles offshore. Migrants from the Caribbean region and from Asia, in particular those lacking legal status, are at risk for forced labor in domestic service and in the retail sector. Corruption in police and immigration has been associated with facilitating commercial and sex trafficking. So that's Trinidad and Tobago's country profile for 2020. That says in a mouthful everything that you have seen this morning.
And
that is Maria's story in print.
Yes. And we'll take your calls in a while. Because we have one more segment to show as soon as that is ready.
Setting that up now.
Natasha sent it for Shortman, and we will show you that. That's the part that we were missing from the story. So you can see that part again, or listen to it to hear how that turned out for Maria.
Yes.
In the meantime, we talk about safe housing. Now, safe housing is essential for survivors. A lack of safe housing options increases vulnerability to further trauma. Trauma-informed prosecutions and special task forces are key. Now, in the United States, specialized multidisciplinary task forces have been key to the successful investigation, prosecution, and of human trafficking cases involving addiction as well. Now, folks, I really am interested in Trinidad and Tobago's position and where we are and how we going to get to tier one. Guyana is on tier one. Yep. Guyana.
Yes.
Because they've convicted people. We need to cross that line at some point. And
because we've had a lot of arrests made,
we have
right?
had arrests.
Arrests made, but the logjam seems to be with the judiciary.
They're getting fat in prison. And that's the problem. Yeah. And even though cases seem, it's so unfortunate in Trinidad and Tobago that you would hear officials speak of advocacy and we must advocate and we must. But yet, when we do it, they have a problem. So I know in Trinidad and Tobago is not what is said, but who is saying it. Then what we're doing here is advocating. So we're not trying to make the judiciary look bad. As a matter of fact, if we are real here, we are looking bad because of our slow pace of convicting people in Trinidad and Tobago. And another tip report is going to be released, and Trinidad and Tobago will remain at tier 2 if we don't start getting convictions. What could be the problem? And this is what is so frustrating for officers of law enforcement as well. They will go out there, and it's not, you don't just raid a place, you're talking about nights of surveillance, days and nights of surveillance, collecting information, make sure you have the right place, because when you kick down that door, you want to make sure what behind the door is what you're looking for. Yeah. So it takes hours and days and months sometimes of surveillance for our law enforcement officers to make these arrests. When we finally make these arrests and time for them now to be convicted, they're not being convicted. We need to do better. We need to do better. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Why are they not being taken to court when all the evidence... And you see, what this tool does, it prolongs the trauma for the victim.
Correct.
So you have someone held for human trafficking in prison for 5 years, and you expect that when the case finally called, maybe 10 years later after that, or 5 years after
victim will
that,
be
you
able
expect
to-
the victim to want to support the state, and there are things they may not even remember. So why are we wasting time and dragging our feet like this? And when you speak about it, we're trying to make the judiciary look bad, as somebody said. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to make us look good in Trinidad and Tobago, because, as I said, a next tip report will be released, and we're going to get beaten on our calves again for our laissez-faire attitude in having convictions for these people. So let's go to. We ready? Are we ready with Short Man?
Yes, short man, you could go ahead and play that if you're ready. Yes, I'm sure this is the right piece.
Right.
And
So-
this is the missing piece, where she talks about the circumstances of her rescue.
Let's go to that, and we'll come back. So they took you to a bar. What happened when you saw her?
Yo nunca la vi a ella. Ella nunca.
I never saw my friend. She
So they took you to a bar. What happened when you saw her?
Yo nunca la vi a ella. Ella nunca.
I never saw my friend. She never went. They took me to a bar where there were Chinese men. There was a mature lady who they said was in charge of the bar. They immediately took us upstairs to the rooms, and all I was asking is what I was doing there and where was my friend. And this is when they told me that my friend also worked at that bar.
Now, what was expected of you when they took you upstairs? Did you get a change of clothes, food to eat? What happened then?
Sí, una vez que yo llegué, yo tenía mi ropa.
Yes. Well, I had my clothes, but they were wet. So they gave me a chance to wash it. They lent me something to put on, and they gave me food. Then I received instructions from the mature lady in charge of the bar, who told me that I was lucky because that day there was no work, but I would have to prepare myself for the next day, which would be Tuesday.
The mature lady, was she Trinidadian, Chinese, Venezuelan?
She was a Venezuelan.
So what work did you get to do the following day?
Tenía que.
I had to give my service to any man that would choose me.
So was it a bar, a restaurant, or what, a nightclub? What was it?
It was a bar.
So what were you asked to do? Were you supposed to dress a certain way and just walk around the bar or serve drinks? What was expected of you really?
Sí, tenía que vestirme de
Yes,
otra
I had to
manera.
dress a certain way. I had to walk down the stairs. I had to accept if the men wanted to drink with me because this generated money to the bar.
So what was your frame of mind then? Did you say, look, you're going to go through with it, or you just wanted to go home at that point?
I was afraid. I was so afraid. I was very afraid. At one moment, I thought of escaping, but they told me that the man in charge of the bar was a very dangerous man who knew persons, and that if I did escape, the other day, most probably, I would be dead. And this is when I just cried and cried and contacted my mother and told her everything that had happened.
So did anyone who came into the bar, did they get a chance to sit with you or speak with you or try to solicit you in any way?
No, No, porque el bar abrió a las
No,
6:30
they did not have a
de la
chance to, because
Nosotros bajamos a las
the
7.
bar opened at 6:30 p.m. We came downstairs at 7 p.m. The men who were there, they knew, they had police people that they knew policemen. And the men that were there, they thought that these men that were there were their friends of the bar owners. But actually, they were policemen and no one knew. So only after the police took out their arms and said that they were police is when everything stopped.
The first time you had a chance to speak with your mother, what was that conversation like?
Fue el día anterior antes que llegara
When
la
I
policía.
first contacted my mom, I did it before the police arrived at the bar. I called her. I was very afraid. And I told her that I had come here because my friend had told me there was an opportunity to work. And she said something completely different to what was happening. I told her that I had been taken to this bar without my consent. And my mom just began to cry and cry. She asked me to give her names. She asked me if there were persons in Venezuela that was involved in this. I told her yes. She told me that they would do whatever was possible to get me out. She also told me that I should try to escape, and I told her I could not because I would be dead, but that I would try to solve this.
Now, was it hard for you, after speaking with your mom, to go back to work?
Yes, it was very difficult.
So was it a police raid that stopped all activities for the night and, people were arrested?
Yes, all the girls were arrested. The workers of the bar were also arrested. But the persons visiting the bar were not arrested.
Really? The persons visiting the bar were not arrested, they were allowed to just leave?
Yes, because when the police arrived, they sent us upstairs, and I heard one of the workers saying that the visitors, the police had them on the floor, and then they let them go.
And what happened after that? Were you arrested?
What happened after that was the police interviewed us.
They asked us for the names of the persons that were in charge of the bar. The mature lady who was in charge of the bar told me not to say my age, but I had already said everything. I said the truth. I said I had arrived the day before. I said that I had not started working there as yet. I said that I was 17 years old. And I pointed to the woman in the corner who was the lady in charge of the bar. She said that she had no idea that she had minors working in the bar. She thought they were of legal age. All this brought on a consequence, a stress, and I fainted. When I revived, I then cried with the people around me, and then I was taken to the police station.
Now, I know you were at least happy to be in the arms of law enforcement, the counter-trafficking unit, than for where you were before, right?
Yes. I believe it was a miracle from God. He sent me help. I believe he sent help for all of us that were there, because I was not the only one that was forced to be there. The majority of them were there and they did not want to be there.
You were arrested, you were taken to the station. What happened after that?
Bueno, pasamos una noche. Sacaron a las menores a otra
That
habitación
night,
y las
the
mayores
minors were
dejaron
separated from the adults.
en donde estaban.
We were interviewed, and the next day, the Venezuelan embassy visited us. We were again interviewed.
We were taken to do a medical checkup, and then we were given food And then we were taken to do other medicals and then taken to home.
Right,
So
folks?
that was the gap. Apologies again for this missed information. But now you see what happened to Maria, where her intended destination was, and how she was rescued. She was very fortunate that that undercover operation, took place the day after she arrived.
Yes.
Otherwise,
And we really, despite all the negatives you hear about our police service, and the negative people, as always say, there are people who join the police and they are police officers. Well, we want to commend the police officers who continue to do this work selflessly, and put their lives on the line to ensure that we become compliant. And we want to thank you, officers, very, very much for the hard work that you continue to do. 622-3937, we take your calls again. And as we, on the last 15 minutes of the program, our Dependency, remember, news comes up at 12. So good morning.
Good morning to the panel there. This is Mr. Pinal.
That Mr. Pinal?
Yeah, yes.
Papa.
Mr. Pinal.
How are you, sir?
You know who won this morning?
Yeah. Let's
all right. Welcome, Mr. Pinal. How you doing?
I mean, you're on in a good time. You should love it to keep this time.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let me join you in complimenting the police on that swift action there.
Yes.
She was 17, for God's sake. Now, so we do not think that she would have the best judgment and she would be easily deceived. I mean, we all know what 17-year-olds give, right?
Right. That's right. Right.
Secondly, I have a suggestion. When something gives you problems, you tend to back away from it. Or if you anticipate that there will be problems, you tend to change your course of action. In the case of an exam, you want to prepare so that you don't have problems and so on down the road. But that's a little way off.
Right.
In the case of landing here in Trinidad, where it takes a couple hours, if you know that when you land wherever you land, and you get in and walk through the bush, and you get into the road, because we have roads running right around Trinidad, and you're going to end up on one of them in a vehicle if you're being smuggled. And there's police. I mean, we know where the coastal roads are. They're going to end up on the road in some kind of vehicles that the traffickers are moving with. And I don't understand how we don't hear on the news on a regular basis that they stopped so many Vennies coming in illegally. We didn't catch them at sea. We didn't stop them as they entered into the bush to get to the road. But while they were in the maxis and so on, the police stopped them.
To be intercepted.
Yeah, because they will get on the road at some point.
No, remember, Mr. Pina, listen, remember too, that there are police officers in prison right now for facilitating this. So maybe that could be the problem right there.
Yeah, but at some point, when you've locked up all those guys, you get down to the core of police, not the core, a large number of police officers who wouldn't facilitate it.
Yeah.
But we are still not hearing. For example, in Pinal here, they end up in Pinal because if they go down to Monjablo Beach or they go down to the beach at the end of Bunsey Trace, they will end up in Pinal. And if they land at Queenam or Losiro, they will end up in Pinal because all those are on the south coast.
Right.
And all roads lead to Pinal. Right? So why is there no determined, concerted action in these areas? And we don't hear on the news on a regular basis that they are stopping them. And therefore, that news will filter back to Venezuela immediately. And people wouldn't come because they don't want to end up in the hands of the police.
Right.
The immediate penalty that you pay is that you get caught. If you get through and you come here and you hook up with the neighbor WhatsApp and thing and you send it back, the neighbor internet, free internet, and people here are real generous, right? Or you pay for your internet. And people are going to keep coming. There has to be a deterrent, and catching them when they arrive. If you can't catch them at sea or through the bush, catch them on the roads.
I hear you.
You're on Friday. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Pinal, thank you very much for calling. And 622, no, he's right. And then remember, there are police officers who facilitate this. But
Right.
this
And also
is a good
maxi
point.
taxi drivers, as we saw in the ads that we've seen
Yes.
today, they are local people who facilitate as well.
Yes. Hello, good morning. Please take off your radio, sir.
I would. First time caller.
Welcome.
I have a suggestion because I don't want to believe the court being compromised for having these cases stay so long before trial. I don't know if you could lobby to have a special court.
A special court.
Yes.
Just for bringing up.
Very good
just
idea.
Just for bringing up our status on that reader list. I saw you read there, and
Yes.
probably next year will be the same. I think you should lobby for that special court. We need 10 magistrates to do that job.
Well said.
Yes.
Well said.
I just a couple magistrates and had that thing processed on. As you say, we ain't looking good.
Thank you. Well said.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very
Well
much
said.
for that, sir.
Good contribution. And once again, Mr. Pinal, thank you very much for your contribution. You could join us in the evenings too. I don't know what your timing is like on the evenings, but when we settle again, all right? But I appreciate your calling and your contribution. Good morning.
Good morning, Garth and Natasha.
My dear, how are you?
Oh, good, thank you. Oh, thanks for the wonderful program and so on. I, too, was going to make the suggestion that they have a special court for prosecuting these people when they're charged.
Yep.
And don't have them with the other sets of criminals and so on. Have a special court. So with that now, there shouldn't be any bottleneck. And we could really slam the doors on these guys
Yes.
and Trinidadians.
And raise our country's status.
Involved in that trade. A
Yes.
special court. I mean, come on. The judiciary filled with bright people. How come only thinking about that? And we are the little plebs, as they'll call us. The little plebs could think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was about to suggest that. So I hope that the members of the judiciary, that they're listening. You have a special court to deal with these things. And Garth and Natasha, I have heard many times in the news where police officers, I want to debunk what Mr. Pinal said, have caught guys trafficking people on the road. That's when they caught them. Trafficking, driving on the roads, and they were bought a book. They were charged. So I
Right.
heard it on the news.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I-
but what you are saying too is it must be a concerted effort. You see, it's happened too few and far between. So I think what Mr. Pinal was alluding to is that we have a more concerted effort on
But
in
here
these
what
areas.
in order to have that done, oh gosh, you see, you and Natasha, you all real love, I know I see Mr. Harvey Boris talking that, but you all real love Trinidad and Tobago. And the majority of police officers love Trinidad and Tobago and their citizens and so on. And I know many of them have children. You all, for the love of Trinidad and Tobago, put aside the money. The money, it is not worth it. Because you're damaging other people's children, you're damaging your country, and by extension your own self. So so forget that. Do what is right for the love of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank
The
you, my dear.
majority of us must love Trinidad and Tobago and do what is right. So guys, I want to commend you. I salute you, Garth and Natasha.
Thank you,
Continue the fight. Many of us out there, we silent and we quiet. But anytime we see something, we're going to say something.
Yes.
Two tips and so on.
Thank you, my dear.
guys.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you so much.
622-397, good morning.
Good morning, Garth and Natasha. You getting a feedback?
No, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, I want to congratulate you on your great work.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
I sat and I listened, and it's like if that was my child. I said God was on that child's side.
Yes, for
You see,
real.
I'm so I'm still overwhelmed with it. I said God was on that child's side. She's young and she was insufficient and naive, and it can happen to many in that age.
Yes.
Because I was that age as well. And I say, my God, God, deliver that child. Save her. because he know she had been insufficient, naive, and really didn't know what she was getting into.
Yes.
And I thank God for her. And I hope that the country, the judiciary, all those involved, move swiftly to have family courts. God, I don't even remember when Mr. Manning was in power, just before he was ousted, his vision was to have several courts put in place, including family courts, so that things can be processed quickly, especially for the young. So I hope they try to move swiftly and get that process going.
Thank you very much.
Garth and Natasha.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling 622-3937. Remember, coming at the top of the hour, we have news, so stand by for that. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
First time caller.
Welcome, sir.
I too want to join that lady in giving God thanks for acting so quickly to help that poor young woman.
Yes.
I think that was it. Because although she made the wrong choice, but God still answered her prayer. And so people today, who may make the wrong choice, call upon God. Because He says, call upon me and I will answer thee and show you great and mighty things which you know not of. Thank you, God. Thank you, Natasha.
You're welcome. And next week we have another interesting story for you, and we'll have the director of the counter trafficking unit to take you out through the paces and what we don't understand. Because Denzel, I see you make a point here, and we'll deal with that next week, please God, about she not being a victim. We'll help you to understand why. All right? Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Garth and Natasha.
Morning.
This is my second time hearing this program. I heard it when you all had it at the 6:15 hour.
Right.
And I'm just as moved this time as I was the first time. For the first time, I'm going to agree with Mr. Pinal. I think you all should lobby for having your program done at this time on Sunday, because I honestly believe you are going to attract a wider cross-section of people, particularly so the young people. You'll hardly get them on at that hour that you all come on after 6 in the evening.
Right.
This is a more conducive time for them. So, and the parents will be available to kind of sit with them or be around them and explain certain things and have a conversation. I really think you should lobby for having it at this time.
Right.
That hour, people starting to get ready for work and preparing for even virtual school or whatever.
Yes.
This is more conducive.
I
But
hear
thanks again for a good show.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope
we'll
the
have a
right
chat
people
with Tony.
are listening and hearing your pleas.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Garth and Natasha. How are you all today?
Pretty good, thanks.
A wonderful, great and wonderful program. I have a concern based on not only the lady and the others, but the former lawyer, not going to call name, that was an advisor to the Prime Minister when they were fighting for these illegal or whoever trafficking people that are trying to bring these people to Trinidad, and they were fighting for rights for them. And look at that now, all the people who are involved, they're seeing what it is. They're the cause and creator of these problems. And when the Prime Minister maybe dismissed her from the cabinet, the advising area, and plus they come and then advising some gentleman in Batavia MP was his advisor, and these people who know the right thing, because we're aware of a lawyer that's asked you whenever he's trying to represent you, tell me the truth, and that's the only way I could get you off. You see what's taking place, and if you really, you're in it, so you could grasp the picture of the whole program and realize these people is aiding and abetting, or aiding and abettors of wrong. I call it wrong, not right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much. Enjoy your balance of the day.
You
And
too.
you and Natasha.
622-397. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Garth and Natasha.
Morning,
I
ma'am.
had to stop my cooking to come yet again, to say what a quality program, and to say yet again, to put in a plug that this program needs to be aired in the morning at this time.
Okay.
It's
Thank
a
you very
very
much, ma'am.
important program. I've said it repeatedly. I've called into the station. I don't know what else to do other than probably write a letter which may be put aside. But this is an excellent program that is in the bushels of after 6. Sometimes I myself, I'm too tired to get it. I want to make a plug to management of the station to please kindly put this program.
All right,
at
caller.
the hour.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks
very
a lot.
much for that endorsement.
Take the
And
final call.
Yes,
Good
one
morning.
more call before the news.
Morning.
Natasha and Mr. Garth, a blessed day to you all.
Blessed day to you too, sir.
You see, sir, this didn't going on yesterday or today. This going on for so long, and it reached so bad. After today is what? Would you hear back anything about what you all you have a great program, but you cannot just sit in a radio and bring a program and things would work out good. The higher you go, the more wickeder it becomes. And this is where you have to get into the high places and strike those evil people in the high place.
Thank you. Thank you very
Right,
much.
thank
So,
you very
unfortunately, we
much.
have to go. Sorry to cut you like that, but Miss Nicole Romani, who you saw it at the end of Maria here doing that newscast, well, she is here in person now to bring you the news at 12. Folks, this was a wonderful session.
Thank you very much for joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, on radio. Thank you very much. And we will convey your sentiments about the time slot
Yes.
to management.
And of course, thank you, Guy Barrington, for coming out this morning to
yes.
facilitate this, and Rhonda
Short
and
man,
everybody.
hope everything. Thank you again, Short man,
Short
and
man,
apologies for the mix up with the video. We'll see you again.
Yes, well,
next Sunday.
keep your ear to the ground to hear if we're in the morning or in the evening, but we'll try for any morning, Sunday morning. All right, Nicole Romani up next with major news at 12.
Good afternoon.